A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend, Kristitutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Everybody, a special end of February 2025 intro before we get into the normal intros to state that I've moved things around a bit. Now, normally, you know, my Wednesdays are guest drops and Saturdays monologue drops. Every once in a while, there'll be a guest on Saturday, but never a monologue on Wednesday. Well, this end of February, the last 2 weeks, there are going to be 2 guest drops a week, 7 specials total in the month of February 2025. RFK Jr. was indeed officially approved by the Senate to HHS. So I had hoped to have Joan Ifland on the show with her, the discussion with her, before he got approved. And the next shows kind of sort of all tie either mental or physical health in some way all together. That's why I'm kind of bringing them all together, pushing them up, doing a Tuesday and Thursday, the next to last week of February. February 18th will be Joan Ifland. You can see me looking down if you're looking behind the scenes video, so I can make sure I get it right on the calendar. Jack Lafountain will be on with me on the 20th, healing not just the body, but the mind, the body, and the soul. So that relates in kind of this last of February, all health and body and mental related together. And then the following week, the last week of February, February 25th, special number 6 will be George Dubec, and we're talking about networking to a better society. That deals with our mental state, our overall mental health as a society. So I'm bringing that in earlier than it would have normally been. And after that, February 27 of 2025, our friend DPB is back with his new song about peer pressure, which of course is mental health related. So I ramble enough. Let's actually get to the intro. Take care. God bless. Welcome to Kristitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Leonard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and an occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show!
Welcome to another episode of Kristitutionalist Politics Podcast. Joining me today will be George Dubec. Did I get that pronunciation right?
That's it, Dubec.
Okay, great, right. And he is the author of several books, so we'll get into that. Welcome to the show, George. How are you?
Hey, pretty good, Joseph. Glad to be here tonight, sharing some insights and information to your audience. I wrote 6 books. I'm an expert on business and social networking. My theme is that you can get anything you want in life by your social network and your business network. That means you can get employees, you can get jobs, you can get funding, you can get advice, you can get resources, you can get a date and even a mate if you use your group of associates and in your network and even your family and friends.
All right. Well, that automatically, before we get to the traditional where were you born and raised and all that, begs the question, dating at work, bad idea?
Well, actually, it's a good idea in today's world because of all the weird things that are happening. Online dating is getting a bad rap because there's a lot of liars, sexual predators, weird people fishing, all kinds of crazy things. So we're going to go back to the tried and true method. I call it referral matchmaking. You get your friends and family involved to help you look, seek, and search for the type of person that would be a good mate or date or whatever you want. And that's how I found my wife 45 years ago, using my social network.
Okay. So let's indeed hit the garbage truck, right? Beep, 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 back it up. Go to that usual first question. Where were you born and raised, and where are you now, and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I was born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio, a small town.
Oh, no, wait a minute, a Buckeye. This interview is over. Just kidding, of course. Continue.
Well, actually, I look at myself as a citizen of the universe. I'm not really from anywhere. Just I'm on this planet with everybody else, and that's kind of like the way. I don't like to be divided and have a lot of diversity. I'm just here with everybody else.
I don't think you meant the word diversity. You meant adversity.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
I knew what you meant, but for the benefit of those maybe reading in the transcript, we needed to correct that. And it was like, before you get a lot of nasty grams.
Yeah, right. Everybody's pretty sensitive today.
Yes. Oh, many episodes on, indeed, social media, all the trolls and the constant melting down. Nobody can handle anything that isn't their little bubble. And I've recently done a show, The Lies of DEI and the Reality of E Pluribus Unum, right? From many one. We already are the great melting pot. DEI is reintroduced segregationism with this group only that and that other group only this. That's division. That's not diversity and inclusion. But you're not necessarily here to talk about that. But social networking, that relates.
Well, one of the things I look at is there's another interesting concept that people in the United States aren't aware of. But do you know that competition creates violence, adversity, conflict, and division? Anytime you compete, what you're trying to do is divide yourself from everybody else and say, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, you're not, I don't like you, I don't like your team, I don't like your state, I don't like your school, I don't like your politics. So what if we didn't have competition? Who cares? Let me ask you a question. Who won the Super Bowl 5 years ago?
Yeah, I don't know. But
okay.
Yeah,
so why do we care?
Yeah.
It's a game. In fact, all sports are nothing but an extracurricular activity, and yet we revere people in sports and entertainment. But it's just a sideline. I mean, just think on television, that's all everybody. How many times did you see them honor a father of 5 kids that brought up them successfully? Do they ever talk to them? No, they talk to some guy that throws a football. I really don't care about him throwing a football. He don't have to. In fact, don't throw the football. I'd rather talk to a father who raised 5 kids successfully.
Yeah, I'd rather talk to a cop or a fireman or an EMT. They are the real heroes, right? The football and I certainly watch football on occasion. Occasional distractions are okay. But when you're caught in the bread and circus 24/7 is a big part of our problem. But that's why a lot of people want to promote those sorts of things as the circus distraction and avoiding the discussions of the important things like family.
Well, I've got a solution that I'm going to come up with, and I don't know if I'll live long enough to see it, but my solution is to eliminate all sports as a business. In other words, nobody gets paid to play sports. You do it for your own benefit, your own extracurricular activities, your own socialism or whatever. And all sports teams are tied to a city. For example, Cleveland. If you're a Cleveland Brown football player, you live in the city and you play, the money that comes into the coffers goes to the city. It doesn't go to you. You have a regular job, okay? Work 9 to 5, be productive. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, and on the weekends you go play football. And if you're a good football player, you're on the team, people come and watch you and they pay to watch you, and that money goes to the city. How about that?
Yeah, well, you've certainly, I'm not going to take a for or against. Your opinion is your opinion. And I just want you to be able to present it. You're going to obviously get pushback from all kinds of people who bread is buttered by the monies that change hands, the owners who have become billionaires.
But see, here's the question. Do you want that money to go to a couple of private individuals, or do you want that money to go to help benefit charities, research on healthcare, medication, homeless people? I'll give you a choice. You want that money to go to a couple of private owners, or do you want it to go to help your city benefit the people? There's your choice.
I understand the model. It's never worked anywhere, and good luck trying to get it. But I see a lofty, wonderful intent there. But that's part of the issue, though. The road to hell is paved with good intentions often. Your intention is good. Somebody else will come along and muck it up, regardless of your intentions.
The big problem we have in this country is a culture problem. And unless we solve it, we're headed down to a precipice over here, go over a cliff. By the way, did you ever study the Amish culture?
We have Amish fairly close here. I've never personally in-depth studied them or anything. I've been to an Amish farm, but...
So just out of curiosity, do some research and find out they are a we culture. And most people in the United States are a me culture. It's all about me. What's going to make me happy? I don't like you. I don't like this. But the culture in the Amish, when they wake up in the morning, they go, how can I help my wife, my kids, my community? They build a barn for every newly married couple, the whole village. Now, can you imagine what if we took on that kind of a mindset? That'd be amazing.
And it works wonders in the macro. It won't work in the macro. I'm just sorry.
Put it this way.
It doesn't.
Never does. Anything is possible. Anything. Because how did all of these trends get started in the first place? Because it just got started. Would you say 20 years ago we'd be doing what we're doing today? No. But we're doing it. Why are we doing it? Somehow it was a movement. It was a trend. It was something crazy.
Yeah, I don't doubt. I don't want more change. I want restoration. We need to go back to the Judeo-Christian ethos foundations we had. The Amish have that mindset that indeed a free will collective is not bad. Forced communism at the end of the barrel of a gun is not biblical. Now, again, free will. We are to want to be our brother's keeper. And we tried communism long before Marx ever came along in the Bradford colony. And they almost all starved to death because, as Jesus said, the poor will always be among you. And why did he say that? He wasn't talking about economics or governance. He was talking about lazy people, human nature. There will always be some that say, if I'm going to get the roof over my head, equal share in food, clothing, and I don't have to work for it, more and more get in the cart, and eventually Atlas shrugs.
Well, the point being, I would like to eliminate the designation of any kind of a society. I don't want to be Republican. I don't want to be Democratic. I don't want to be fascist. I don't want to be communist. The Amish, think about this. What would you call their society? What name do they have? They don't have a name. They're a we culture. It's just we. We are a community helping each other. So when you put again, you go to labels. If you put we're communist or we're socialist or we're this, all of a sudden we have conflict, we have violence, we have division. So stop naming it. Let's just be a we culture.
Well, again, the Bible does make that distinction.
There you
go. You're talking, but I'm talking biblical community through free will. And right, that's the Amish culture. They're not forcing anyone. They're free to leave or free to stay.
If you trained all the young people, like for example, I want you and your whole audience to try this for a week. Wake up in the morning and sit down or with a piece of paper or think about it. What are you going to do today to help your family, your friends, your wife, or what nice things? Even put down one thing every morning. You wake up and say, the one thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to help my neighbor. I'm going to do this for my wife. I bet nobody listening out there does that. I bet not one person does that.
We are to want to aspire to that. That is true. And again, the Bible talks about the me culture versus the we biblical community culture. Hubris is the sin, not pride. I should be proud of my son hitting the walk-off home run at Little League. I should be proud of Sally when she comes home with all A's on the report card. I should be proud at work of a job well done. It matters, though, if it's, like you say, the me culture and hubris. No one else could possibly do that job but me. I demand double my money. There's that difference. We are not necessarily on different pages here.
Yeah, well, you hit it. I agree with everything you said. That's perfect.
Yeah,
but like you said, we have to aspire to that, but we have to do something to train the mind. You know, your mind can be trained to do anything, and our mind is trained to be selfish. I grew up, I'm totally selfish. I admit it, because I lived in this American culture. I had the fancy cars. I had the great looking clothes, expensive homes. I did that because I was part of the American culture. And then I got older and I go, wait a minute. Why did I do all this? Because I was brought up this way. That's what everybody else did. The old keeping up with the Joneses, being better than the next guy. Well, why? Well, I was trained to do that. I didn't have to do that if I was trained properly. I would have, if I was, let's say, brought up an Amish person, I wouldn't be thinking like that, right?
No, that's a very valid point. And what I'm hearing is several people, a lot of people, myself included, as I had, expensive vehicles. I've owned 2 DeLoreans as, cars. If I could have, I'd have gotten a Tesla Roadster, but now I'm on disability now. As you get older, you indeed often do wake up to that stuff isn't making me happy, right?
Yeah, that's right. And what really makes you happy is helping other people, right? I mean, if you buy a fancy car, it makes you feel good for maybe a couple of days or a week or whatever, but then it's just a car. You get into it. I mean, I've had the fancy cars, and after a while, you forget you're in a fancy car. It's just taking you from A to Z. But if you help somebody, it sticks with you because you see that you benefited them, and you'll feel good forever that you helped that person.
That's, again, though, where I say often, we don't need more change. We need restoration, and getting back to, like, our founders believed in public service, not lifelong career politicians like we have today. We need less change. We need some restoration, which is not to say we're going back to slavery and things like that. Obviously, this nation, no peoples, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We're all human, frail, flawed. It's part of humanity. It's whether we want to and try to be better, right? Like the Michael Jackson song, The Man in the Mirror. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. It's got to start with you, is what I'm hearing from you.
Right. And also the way that change happens is repetition over and over, listening to the same thing. That's what they do on television with their ads. Repetition. Oh, the infomercials are famous for that. They keep playing it over and over. And pretty soon you go, you know what? I think I need that. I think I'm going to buy that. And you don't. But they pound you. It's like anything. So if you take young kids, their minds are still plastic. You can take them and you can create whatever kind of person they grow into. You remember the Greeks back in the old Greek days, the Trojans and the Greek wars? They used to take the young boys from the home at 7 years old and make them into warriors. They train them to be a warrior. The kids don't want, it wasn't free will. The kid didn't choose to be a warrior.
Correct.
They trained them to. They mentally just said, "This, you're going to fight. You hate those people. You hate those people over there." In fact, isn't that what they do in football? The guys, before they go out in the field, they drum up hate for the other team. I hate those guys. I mean, how horrible is that? Why would we have a culture where we're going to compete with each other and we hate each other?
Yeah, well, it does. It goes back to the gladiator days. Again, bread and circus. It's just a new form. And indeed, it's indoctrination and brainwashing and expecting conformity. And, there's a lot of people who benefit from that.
Well, they benefit, but like I said, what happens is, think about these professional players. These young kids come out of college, no skills, no training. They can throw a football, and they're making $20 million a year. And what do you think they're doing with that money? Are they doing good with it? No, they're going out to strip clubs. They're buying fancy cars, chasing women. Most of them are all divorced. They have no family life. Why are we creating a culture like that? It's insane.
I agree with you on that part. We are valuing the wrong things and the wrong people. As I said before, indeed, we are idolizing definitely the wrong people. But the problem is, regardless of the system, just like when Jesus said the poor will always be among us, there will always be lazy. There will also always be greedy, people full of hubris, people who crave power and control and will game any system to lord over others.
Well, I think that in general, unless somebody has a health handicap, I think most people are not lazy. I think they're created, or their environment makes them lazy because the opportunities are limited. They have crappy jobs. They don't have any further opportunities or gains. So they just go, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to go and work at McDonald's. I don't want to clean toilets. Okay. Well, what do you expect somebody like that? You expect they're excited to go to work, that they want to work? No. Well, we should have some kind of a culture where we're grooming people to have meaningful jobs and so forth. And we're not doing that.
Well, what are you going to do with all those other? Mike Rowe has made a ton on his Dirty Jobs show, right? What are you going to do with those jobs if nobody wants to do them? Somebody has to do them. And indeed, you may not be excited for that job, but you should. And this goes back to the cultural moral decay. There is little to no work ethic anymore.
Well,
regardless of the job.
I'm just throwing this out there. I haven't really thought that deep about it. But what if we had the dirtiest, crappiest jobs, the highest paying jobs? And the guy that throws a football, make him at the low end of the scale. So the best people want to do the hardest, toughest jobs.
I like that thought. That could work. But unfortunately, again, some of the most lazy people are indeed those who somehow struck it rich and they want to keep their easy life gravy train going again. So the power and control people will never allow that to happen. I'm again saying there's a lot of merit in what you're saying, but there's no such thing as a perfect system. And
no, you're right. No system, no matter what you come up with. Even the Amish, I mean, they don't have a perfect system. But you always can strive to be better, to make it better. And why not? I mean, you got to strive for to be as good as you can possibly be. You don't want to be average or the worst you can be. But anyway, there's a lot of philosophical things out there that we need to address.
Yeah, but everybody can't be the best at everything, because now you're talking going back to that competition.
But here's where there's the differences. The best that you can be, but not better than somebody else.
Necessarily.
In other words, eliminate competition. The only competition is yourself. You compete with yourself. Now that makes sense.
Now that as an inner moral goal and personal philosophy, that That's absolutely very good. Yes. Your best may not be indeed better than somebody else's, but indeed, if you're working, if you're striving to indeed do the best you can and are capable of, not being lazy and unwilling, because again, the Bible makes a distinction between the unwilling and the unable. As long as you're willing and you're working and you're striving, that is indeed a very good thing, a sound thing, a biblical thing, a moral thing.
Yeah.
So
No,
once again, we're not necessarily apart on that. It's how it can possibly be achieved through a free will society.
Well, see, that's the question. How do we achieve what we're talking about? We're talking about a big macro concept, and how did we get to where we're at? And then how do we get to a better level of society? That's a good question. I mean, I don't know exactly the answer, but somehow we got to start somewhere. And right now, we're not going in that direction.
Yeah, every journey starts with a first step, right? As they say. And indeed, if it weren't for world dreamers, a lot of things would never been accomplished, because somebody has a dream. They have to then get hearts and minds of others to then broaden the goal as a way to move forward to accomplish it.
Yep. That's where we're at. We've got to make a change to make things better, whatever that is. And I don't really know at this point in time. We don't have the leadership to do that. So I don't know. And I hate to say this, but even not only political leaders, but leaders in all organizations are failing. School systems, Cubs, even Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts. Leaders are all, we don't look up to leaders anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're finding all these people are corrupted to some extent.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that is cultural Marxism and wanting to destroy the family, wanting the family unit and those sorts of things. They want kids dumbed down, those who have the power, the control, and the money, so they get to keep it. Because dumbed down people, or people consumed by bread and circus all the time, are easier to manipulate and control.
Well, the one thing that's interesting is that how do you control any society? Either force or propaganda, one or the other. I don't know. They use propaganda on us right now. That's what's controlling us. I guess at some point, if people don't follow your propaganda, then you use force on them, like in North Korea. But you know, when you got free will, you got everybody going in different directions. Again, how do you control them? It's like a football team. You know, if you have 11 guys on the team that are all fantastic talents, but they don't buy into the system, you're not going to do any good. You can have average guys on the team, but they all buy into the system, and they're going to be much more effective.
Yeah, that's the pros and cons of free will and freedom, right? Indeed, it's like trying to herd cats, because everyone's got their own idea of what to do.
That's right. Well, my dad used to take the strap out, and we definitely we were told what to do, and if we didn't, we got the strap.
Well, as a child, right? The old spare the rod, spoil the child thing. Now, there's also, so I'm a firm believer. Yes, spanking can be a necessary tool until it goes into continual abuse. So where is that line is the problem, is the question.
Well, that's always the problem. You know, people abuse their free will or abuse their whatever their strategies are. So I don't know. I guess the thing is that hopefully somehow things will turn around and get better. We can be better as individuals, and maybe that'll work. Just be a good role model for everybody else.
Well, you've had a chance here today to present your case. Starting to move it towards wrapping things up. Is there anything else you want to get in before we forget and close things out?
Yeah, just, well, it was, we kind of went off in a direction that was a little different than what we maybe started, but I just want to tell people that focus on developing a support system, no matter what the society is you're in, Amish or socialist or communist or capitalist. You want to make a strong family unit, support group, family, aunts, uncles, cousins. Do everything you can to continue to be in touch with them, communicate with them. Don't fight and argue over petty things. Build a family unit support system. And then in your business world, everywhere you go, collect all the contact information from everybody you meet, doctors, lawyers, landscapers, and build a database of all these different business categories so you can refer back to them in the future. It's amazing, but your net worth will equal your network.
Now, that is something, again, I absolutely agree with you. What the issue is here kind of with me is I'm hearing a little confliction. Like what you just spoke is perfectly proper biblical community, but I also seem like I hear a streak of worldly communism out of you. And but again, now you want to avoid the labels, but that's how we identify everything with a label these days, which is why I invented my own label, a constitutionalist, right?
Yeah, well, like I said, everybody does like to put labels on everything, even people. We label people as, you're too tall, too fat, you're too loud, you're too whatever. I don't know how you stop that. That's just human nature.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Joseph M. Leonard, host of Constitutionals, taking a brief moment to thank myarchic.com. Together, we share the Christian and family value of honoring family. myarchic.com helps you do that. Preserving family memories online also, therefore, can be shared online. Think of myArchic like a Noah's Ark for images, audio, video, preserving, honoring your family. Thank you again to the folks over at myarchic.com.
Yeah. Oh, that goes, again, back to what I said with Jesus said, the poor will always be among us. That's not an economic statement. That's not a governance statement. It's a human nature statement. And indeed, and when we are given that free will to choose to be slothful or full of hubris on the other end and over eager and everything about you and what you can get and when you can get it. I want it yesterday. I don't want it now. I want it yesterday kind of attitude. So I hear a lot of what you're saying, and it indeed is a problem other than us getting people to recognize they've got to want to be better societal people. And it isn't necessarily always have to be a religious tie, because I talk about Penn of Penn and Teller all the time. He's a professed atheist, but unlike most atheists, he's not anti-religion. He's got no problem with the 10 Commandments on our buildings, because whether you get from a moral religious standpoint that I don't get to kill you, you don't get to kill me, you don't get to steal my stuff, I don't get to steal your stuff, from a religious or just human, it's just being a good human, as Penn would say it is a good thing. And I'm hearing a lot of good things from you about people wanting to be better, and that's the problem. How can we get everyone to look in their own mirror and want to be better, want to be our brother's keeper and help people? But again, at the end of the day, Bible does distinguish between unwilling versus unable. So, do you have a website where people can find you?
Yeah, actually, this is one of my books. Let's see. I don't know why
it's not focusing.
not
For those,
right.
it did for a second.
Well, there it is.
Oh, there we go.
I got a hold of this. Okay.
How to
Here's one of my
become
books, How to Be an Ultimate Networker, 5 Easy Steps. If anybody wants to get a PDF copy of my book, my website is theultimatenetworker.com. That's THE ultimatenetworker.com, all one word. Go to my website, register on my email list, and request that you get a free copy, PDF copy of my book.
For those looking at BitChute, Brighteon, Daily Motion in France, and Rumble and YouTube, when he was able to get it in focus, you got a glimpse of it there.
Okay.
So thank you, George, for coming on. I greatly appreciate your time. I hope I pushed back a little more than I wanted to, intended to. I just wanted you to get a platform to make your case.
Okay, thanks. It was great, Joe. I appreciate your time and effort.
All right, take care. God bless.
All right, bye-bye.
E pluribus unum. For those who never learned it in history class, E pluribus unum, Latin motto for the United States, from many one. Now, I hope I get everything in today, because normally you see me waving around notes on the behind the scenes, but I don't have the notes today, but I've got thoughts rummaging in my head, so I'm hoping to all spew from the brain through the mouth out to you. First, foremost, E pluribus unum, from many one, the great melting pot. The left, with their diversity, equity, inclusion, warping and twisting of language, is just that, nonsense. E pluribus unum, from many one, the great American melting pot. From all kinds of different cultures come together to melt and blend and become our own unique American culture. It's not cultural appropriation, borrowing bits and pieces of the cultures that came here to make our overall unique one, or to pay homage to other cultures. Like, oh my God, on Halloween, like, heaven forbid you wear a poncho and a sombrero if you're not Latin, unless you're trying to make a racist statement that generally, for a 99.99999 ad infinitum percentage of people, it's not meant as a slur. It's an homage and part of our unique overall full culture. Diversity, inclusion are not four-letter words when used properly in conjunction with E pluribus unum. We are the most diverse and inclusive nation on the planet and throughout all history. Those aren't four-letter words when used properly in connection with the great melting pot. It is when it's bastardized, as the left does, because their diversity and inclusion often includes segregation. That's not diversity. That's not inclusion. That's separation. Yeah, I'm laughing again because it is just so on its face, lacking any and all common sense, but yet woke people with no functioning brain cells somehow think, yeah, that makes sense. No, it doesn't. It's lacking any sense. No common sense. There is no logic in it. There is no thought, no reasoning other than look back on the CTP episode and the LibertyBeacon.com piece. The issue was never the issue. It's all about anti-Americanism and tearing down America to, by, and for the left. One of the thoughts I got rummaging in my mind is referring back to a Before It's News piece on some don't want history taught. And that's true. And I might eventually bring that over officially to thelibertybeacon.com. But for now, bits and pieces of all that are in the Other Public, if you can keep it, or the USA Past, Present, Future, and school reforms, needed episodes and articles at thelibertybeacon.com. They don't want you to know. They want you to know. Let me correct myself. They want you to know enough. They want you to understand the Bradford Colony Mayflower Compact. What they don't tell you, don't teach you, they don't want you to know, it's the Mayflower Commie Compact. And we tried communism on our soil long before Marx came along. Marx and Lenin and Shea and Castro and blah, 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 on and on and on, the long list. It fails everywhere, and it failed here. They almost all starved to death. So Bradford went away from the Mayflower Commie Compact, where everyone had equitable shares. No one owned anything. No matter how lazy someone was, they've got equitable portions of food and housing and clothing. And like Jesus said, the poor will always be among you. That's not an economic statement. It's not a governance statement. Well, it is to some degree, because under communism, there are more poor because the lazy get lazier and lazier, especially if they're going to share in all the spoils. Atlas shrugged eventually, as always happens in communism. So Bradford went away from all that garbage, instituted personal freedom, personal responsibilities tied to the Bible. I'll get to that again in a bit. Individual rights, not collectivist rights. Personal property ownership, because when someone actually owns something, they take better care of it. It's just human nature. We're not talking 200 years of human nature here. I'm talking to tens of thousands of years of human nature. That I don't have a degree in psychology, but yes, I studied it and therefore understand it to a degree. Well, I've got to correct myself. It's not to a degree, because I never got a degree, although I have an honorary PhD. That's a whole other story. I don't run around like Dr. Jill Biden claiming Dr. Joseph Leonard. I'm only mentioning it in passing here. I almost never refer to it, but I don't have a degree in it. But to a point is what I mean, of course, by that definition of degree. In some part, understanding it to a point of recognition of a lot of the concepts and things involved in and with human nature. I wish a Psychology 101 course was required in college, along with Economics 101, although with the Marxist professors, they wouldn't get a real economics class, and Civics 101, and Accounting 101. The simple concept of both sides of the ledger. You can't just look at income. You can't just look at outflows. You've got to look at both sides of the ledger. But at any rate, back to Bradford. As Paul Hard would say, now you know the rest of the story, and as the other saying goes, the rest was history. The United States went on to be founded by not the Mayflower Commie Compact principles, but the principles Bradford instituted after throwing out the Commie Fasci Soci's Compact. They don't want that taught in schools. And again, they want the CRT to divide. They want the DEI to divide. It's not diversity inclusion. E pluribus unum is. So when I use it, when you go forth and expect you to use it in proper context and ability to explain the difference between E pluribus unum and DIE, diversity, inclusion, equity, because that's what it really is. Destroying, killing anti-Americanism, destruction of Western culture. It's about an attack. It's not about progressing. It's about destroying. So at any rate, as I said, I didn't write down any notes, so I know I had to talk about Bradford, check Atlas Shrugged, I mentioned that, right, the history article at beforeitsnews.com, I mentioned that, check, the warping of language, the main point, to make this short, wrap it up, E pluribus unum. Next time a leftist moron spews DIE, rebut back E pluribus unum, and watch the blank stare you get back, because they are clueless, absolutely clueless. They have no idea what's going on. They don't understand our government and how it's supposed to work, nor do they care, because they're only interested in undermining Western culture and destroying it and reigning in their commie, fasci, sociocrat, one-party dictatorial rule forever and ever into the future. You needed to hear me remind you of what you already knew, and indeed maybe help guide the phraseology so that going forward, again, anyone says DEI, spew back E pluribus unum and watch stupidity pour through their face in their blank stare, because they will have no clue what you're talking about, no clue what you mean. But you show anyone else around you, you know what's going on. They don't. They don't know history. They don't care. Only know how to spew twisted and warping talking points like Hakeem Jeffries did in the well of the House before the gavel was officially given to Mike Johnson as Speaker. I hope I got all that I needed to out. I think I covered the most important and main notes. I'm looking at a pile of notes that I do have over here in the past. Of course, DOGE I speak on. I'm going to speaking on Revelations. Whatever. I'm missing the note of the next into February outlines of topics I was thinking of writing on and talking to you on. Of course, things are fluid, things can change.
Podcast fans, get more about your favorite podcasts via deepcast.fm, transcripts, and all kinds of extra available information on your favorite podcast, including Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, is listed at deepcast.fm, as well as, are you a podcaster? Well, you can claim your free listing and more via Deepcast Pro. Check out tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters for your free listing, and that's the number 4 in there. tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters, the number 4, Deepcast Pro, the number 4 podcasters via tinyurl.com extension. Take care, all. You gotta check them out. Get more out of your podcast, whether you're the podcaster or the podcastee. Yeah, I think I just invented that word. Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM is your conservative flamethrower. Weekdays, Steve Gruber starts things off at 6 a.m. Gruber gives his perspective on the issues of the day. At 9 a.m., Glenn Beck blazes the airwaves with his nationally syndicated program. From noon to 3, it's Dennis Prager. At 3 o'clock, it's Wham's own Tyrone X. On the Edge, Tyrone tells it exactly as he sees it. At 6, it's The Dana Show, your conservative alternative. At 8, don't miss Joe Pags. Weekends are filled with conservative talk as well. Fingers Malloy, Thomas LeDuc, The Abolitionists Roundtable, A Moment of Clarity with Pastor Rick, Your American Heritage with Ed Bondarenka, Dave Janda's Operation Freedom, and Dick Kupke's Trigger Talk. You can even get links to Wham podcasts from Dave, Dick, and of course Tyrone, all from their pages on our website, whamradio.com. Keep it locked on Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM in southeastern Michigan, and whamradio.com anywhere in the world.